Joining me now is Florida Congressman Cory Mills, member of the House Budget, Financial Services, and Rules Committees. Congressman, good to see you. Of course, President Trump's detractors are out this morning and yesterday after my interview saying, oh, look at him. He's going to get the National Guard against his political enemies like Adam Schiff. No, he was answering my question as far as, are you expecting outside agitators to create chaos on Election Day? And he said he thinks the National Guard would be handling something like that. Of course, he did jam in there all this stuff about radical left lunatics and Adam Schiff, but he was referring, I believe, and I believed it during the interview, to the outside agitators. So I ask you, Congressman, are you expecting chaos on Election Day?
Well, I think that it's very possible. I think that we've seen two elections in 2016 and 2020 where we did have incidents within the actual downtown D.C. area. I mean, a lot of people fail to remember that in 2016, a lot of D.C. was set on fire after President Trump's winning of the elections. But let's talk about this plot, this terrorist plot that had gone on by Tahiti. We have to acknowledge the fact that it's not just our open borders on the south and the north that we have to be concerned with, though there's thousands upon thousands who have entered this country illegally from many countries of terrorist origins. But what we have to look at is what David Fox. So David Fox was an American trapped in Afghanistan, in the capital of Afghanistan, Kabul, who was actually emailed a blank visa document by the State Department. He had confirmed this. This is a visa document that had no name, no serial code, and no barcode on it. This is the same thing that had been sent to 1,000+ different Afghans in the country, which had been mass photocopied and utilized to get on what the Biden-Harris administration called the greatest airlift operation of all times, knowing that thousands upon thousands of those individuals had never been vetted, had never gone through the SIV process, had never done the biometric scanning. And now, once you get them to the United States, Maria, you don't have the ability to request documentation or get further investigation when it's now being run by the Taliban, Haqqani, and ISIS in Afghanistan. So what you're having is to take these individuals at their word. So what we have are thousands upon thousands, from the open borders to the successful airlift operations as the Biden operation, which we know was the botched Afghan, who are here in the U.S. who potentially could cause terror on Election Day, depending on the results.
Well, that is just extraordinary. I mean, truly extraordinary. The botched Afghanistan withdrawal wasn't enough, but then we allowed people in who have no idea their background and they're completely unvetted. And then we've got this letter from Anthony Blinken and Lloyd Austin. And it's basically a letter from the Biden-Harris administration to Israel, warning that it must increase the amount of humanitarian aid to Gaza, or they may block U.S. weapons funding. National Security spokesperson John Kirby is insisting that the letter was not a threat. However, Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel, not the United States, will decide how to retaliate against Iran's attacks, releasing this statement: "We listen to the opinions of the United States, but we will make our final decisions based on our national interest." We're now learning that Biden reportedly instructed his National Security Council to make clear to Iran that any attempt on Trump's life would be viewed as an act of war. He must have been watching our interview because I spoke with Congressman Michael Waltz, and he wants the White House to provide Trump with military protection. And of course, Trump himself told me in my interview on Sunday, Biden needs to tell Iran you cannot threaten a former president. But so far, we see very little response from the Biden administration.
Well, that's exactly right. And look, while I applaud Joe Biden for now stepping up and saying that an attack against a former president or a presidential candidate would be declared as an act of war, that should have been done prior to the assassination, and his resources and assets provided to him to meet the level of risk in which he is facing, because we know that Iran would like nothing more than to take out President Trump after the death of Qasem Soleimani, where we had eliminated the biggest terrorist that Iran had ever had, the leader of the Quds Force. And so this right here, in my opinion, is a day late, a dollar short. But at least he's doing something to try and protect the president, because that's really what's necessary.
Cory Mills, you've been doing so much in terms of rescue and help aid in these very hard-hit areas of the South, Florida, as well as Georgia. Can you give us an update?
Yeah, so successfully, we've actually gotten over 23,000 pounds into Western North Carolina, conducted, and that's of everything from non-perishables to food, water. We've also done med runs to get insulin for type 1 diabetics as well as for oxygen. We've dropped generators, Starlink systems to get connectivity so that they could actually come off of missing persons lists. We've as well done search and rescue missions with USAR teams there in the Western North Carolina, but also here in the state of Florida. We've been delivering quite a few of the Starlink systems to our Florida Highway Patrol, who have been doing an amazing job to escort in those who are actually bringing assets and resources from outside the state. But look, Florida handles natural disasters different than anyone else in the country. We have an amazing governor, and Florida's prepared for these type of things, unlike where Western North Carolina did not have that same type of readiness and preparation. So it's a really, really sad incident, and they got a lot left to try and fix, but Florida's recovering well.
Do you believe that oil prices have plummeted recently because of efforts from this administration to get oil prices down ahead of the election, and also to tell Bibi Netanyahu not to hit Iran oil, and that was also a move to get prices down, Congressman?
I absolutely do. Look, as someone who sits on the House Foreign Affairs and Armed Services Committee, I have seen where this administration has continued to utilize policies and rhetoric to try and go ahead and manipulate things to try and help this future election. So I think that Israel has a right to defend itself, and it should do what it thinks is necessary for its national interests. I agree with Netanyahu.
Congressman, thank you. We'll keep following your work. Cory Mills joining us this morning.